Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're doing things a little bit differently tonight. We're going live. So we're live right now. If you're joining us on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you guys are tuning in from, we appreciate you joining us. Any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, leave them in the chat box, and we'll get to your questions in just a few moments. We have a stacked lineup for you tonight. Just a few moments, we're going to be joined by the great Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen Reports, Leo the Lion, the founder of the Rhino Removal Project, and then we're going to be joined later in the show by John Bachman, a Newsmax host, good friend of mine, to break down all that's going on with Ukraine, the world, and the theme of tonight's show is going to be populism, the populists versus the globalists, because I think that's where we're at right now in our country. We're at an inception point, and only one side can win. You had Vladimir Zelensky come to America last week and completely disrespect this country, disrespect our leaders, Donald J. Trump, J.D. Vance. Now, you have mixed reactions from both sides. Some say it was planned. He came and he planned on doing that, making a show, knowing he was going to Europe and going to Britain afterwards to go get that money that he wound up ultimately getting from them. But I think, in my opinion, very uncalculated. Let's take a listen. Just a short clip of what he did, his little charade he did. He apparently thought he was still in the acting business.
Your country is in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning.
I know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
you
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through
I
this
said,
stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me-
equipment,
You invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
So it makes you wonder. Donald Trump negotiated sort of a ceasefire with Russia, with Vladimir Putin, where the bullets would stop flying. Ukraine would essentially be able to go back to normal life, all in turn for signing over a mineral deal. Now, it gets very complicated. A good friend of mine and a friend of the show, Tony Schaefer, former lieutenant colonel, broke some news the other day that apparently 2 days before the inauguration of Donald J. Trump, Zelensky signed a mineral deal right with Britain. So that poses a very big issue. He's planning on coming to America to sign this deal when he's already apparently signed one. Now, the reporting's unconfirmed, but if he did do that, that's going to be a very big issue for Zelensky. Donald Trump's patience is running very, very thin with this short little dictator. He is a dictator. There's no other way to put it. Zelensky apparently saying just this afternoon that the end of the war with Russia is, quote, very, very far away. Donald Trump not reacting too happily to that news. Posting on Truth Social, quote, "This is the worst statement that could have been made by Zelensky, and America will not put up with it much longer. It is what I was saying. The guy doesn't want to be there to be peace as long as America is backing in Europe." In the meeting, they had Zelensky started flatly that they cannot do the job without the U.S. Probably not a great statement to have been made in terms of the show of strength against Russia. What are they thinking? And I think that's what a lot of us are thinking. What exactly is Zelensky thinking? What's his rationale, and what is his ultimate motive? Does he want the war to end? He's told us time and time again he wants the war to end, but it doesn't seem that's what he wants. He came to America with nothing but malice. He came to put on a show in front of the American media, and the credit to them, much of the mainstream media didn't bite to this numbskull of Zelensky, because that's exactly what he is. Donald Trump, rightfully so, threw him out of the White House, skipped lunch, and instead fed the lunch to his employees in America, the White House employees. So good on Donald Trump. So with such mixed reaction in America with the whole Ukraine, America, and Russia thing, I want to bring in our guest who's done extensive polling on all of this. He's the great Mark Mitchell, as I call him, Mr. Rasmussen himself.
Mark Rasmussen. Call me that. Who cares about Mitchells?
Marcus, it's great to have you with us tonight. I always enjoy our insightful talks, and we can go on for hours and hours and bore the hell out of people for hours. What's your thoughts on this whole Zelensky charades? I mean, it's almost like he thinks he's back in his acting career.
Yeah. talk about somebody who's unable to control their appearance. That had to, maybe he was doing it on purpose. Maybe it was coordinated. Maybe he was talking to people and trying to move the goalpost live on TV. I've heard people, say that might be what they think he was doing. But the ambassador to Ukraine knew what was happening there. She knew what was happening. That's it. This is done. We're dead. There's no chance now because they have no chance. Yeah. And I'll tell you, the polling's been all over the place. Ukraine is one of those ones because of the empathy aspect, because there are so many neoconservatives, because, just 20 years ago, the U.S. did project a lot of force overseas and a lot of people supported it. That is still hanging over American public opinion like a pall. So a lot of people wanted us to, help Ukraine out. But what they've overwhelmingly told us time and time again over the last year or two, that this is a stalemate now and it's unwinnable for Ukraine. So it's been a public opinion stalemate too, until maybe, I don't know, we're going to see some big happenings. It's like all of a sudden everything's moving super fast. And Donald Trump has a really great opportunity to pivot on this. It was like handed to him on a silver platter because we have all the optics of Zelensky just acting ungrateful and being disrespectful. And so who knows what we're going to see? Maybe we'll see it tomorrow.
What's funny, Mark, is you don't often see the shoe on the other foot. In other words, Donald Trump has always looked at the villain, right? Sometimes it's right, and it's rightfully so because he's standing up for America. But nonetheless, he's always looked at as the bad guy. He's always looked at as the gangster. He's always looked at as the tough guy, whatever way you want to look at it. Mainstream media and the Marxist left. But this numbskull, Mark, comes to America, all 4'5" of him, and comes here and starts barking orders, sitting there speaking. The most disrespectful thing you can do, Mark, is overtalk somebody. In the Oval Office, you come there and you start overtalking J.D. Vance. You start overtalking the President of the United States. I don't think it was a very good appearance for him, even in the eyes, Mark, of the mainstream media, of these Marxist leftists. I don't see them going out there. I don't watch Fox News. I don't watch Newsmax. I don't watch OAN. I watch MSNBC and I watch CNN because I like to see what they're talking about. I like to see the.
Oh, you say that in public?
Yeah, because you know what? I want to see what they're doing. They give me ammunition. Okay, if I'm listening to Fox News, I'm just listening to the same circle jerk back and hey, you're right about this. No, you're right. No, you're right. I don't want to listen to that. I want to listen to the discourse. I want to listen to these people arguing and see where they're at on all of it. You don't even hear them, Mark, trying to defend Zelensky. Whereas a year ago, he was the modern day Winston Churchill.
Yeah, I think, they've been caught flat-footed by this utter shift in the media landscape. This happened at 11 a.m., I think, 12, noon, whatever. And they're slicing and dicing to get some kind of super edited clip to Rachel Maddow. But America pretty much figured out, in my opinion, what the hell happened by about dinner time. And so how can you even keep up with that? There's not enough time to do show prep and get the lies out and get your CIA talking points. And so I think, that's great. Public opinion in the aggregate is going to be judged on actually what really happened instead of selectively edited clips. That's absolutely incredible. And yeah, he was in you could really see the emotional trigger. He flipped out when Donald Trump said, "You're not winning." And that's what it comes down to, is that I missed the formal treaty where we became Ukraine's ally. Right. They're not a part of NATO, and they have totally different aims than us. And their aim is to use our wealth and blood to regain the land that they lost to Russia. And it's like Trump knows that we're not. That's untenable for us. And when Zelensky, it's like, no, he's not ready. Kick him out, put him on the step like a toddler, like an unruly toddler that did something bad. He's got to go on the step. You can't get off. You can't get off until you acknowledge what you did and apologize. And I think that's what Trump is waiting for. And that's how you fix them.
I laugh at this, Mark, because this is tell me exactly how you discipline your children. So they've got to learn their lesson.
Start young. You're very firm. You're not abusive. No, you did this. This is wrong. This is not the standards we have. If you want to get back into good graces, and that's what Trump did. He said he's not ready for war. I don't even think he's going to invite him back into the White House. Yeah. And now all of a sudden you have Zelensky out there signaling that maybe he's ready to sign the agreement. Maybe you shouldn't have signed that agreement with UK or whatever the heck that was.
That's true.
We need some answers about that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Over in the Rumble chat, one of our favorite guests, Kelly Song, says, "This just put a smile on my face." John and Mark, glad we can do that for you, Kelly. There's probably double or triple the amount of people out there who have a frown on their face from looking at Mark and myself. Ball girl, even MAGA Patriots, good evening to you. Like I said, folks, we're live. So any questions you have for Mark, any questions you have for myself, feel free. We're open books. We're not charging you. So shoot away and have some fun. Over on Facebook, Carl Grady, little Justin Trudeau has come to the rescue. He announced a few days ago that Canada will sell off $5 to $6 billion of seized Russian assets. Have you heard of that, Mark?
No, I think they're all coming out there and ponying up their next buck of $5. I think the UK just committed another $3 billion. We'll see. I mean, I think the problem is that they're starting to scrape the barrel with their manpower. I think, to be honest with you, we should probably everybody talks about an accounting of all the money that the U.S. has spent over there. I think we want an accounting of their male population, because if we're going to get involved in security guarantees, we have to know how ready they are to fight. And I was asking Grok, and I'll tell you what, Grok thinks that Ukraine has lost more military-age males to flight by far than to casualties of war. Wow. So that would be awful horrible to send a couple 100,000 U.S. troops over there and get involved in World War III, have thousands of Americans die in the mud, when all the Ukrainians came over here due to our open borders and amnesty programs. It's really demented.
It's literally like, Mark, this is like two children on the playground fighting over a toy, and then you happen to call the president of the United States to come in and settle this dispute. Like, it's so ridiculously stupid. Whatever you want to look at it, 350 billion, 150 billion. The total of it is well over 300 billion if you put together the cash and the assets that we've sent over to them. Mark, they have absolutely nothing to show for it. Now, Tucker Carlson came out the other day, and I don't know if this is true or not, but he says that Ukraine, and apparently Lindsey Graham knows about this, Ukraine has been selling our weapons that we're giving them. And you and I were talking about this on the phone the other day, about today actually, about the depletion of our stockpile. And I asked you, as a former military guy, is there an expiration date on missiles, or is there an expiration date on ammunition that I don't know about, that we have some reason, have emptied out our closets like a going out of business sale? And you told me, no, there's no expiration on it. So we don't even really know what these weapons have been used for, where they've been used. Now Tucker Carlson comes out and tells us that maybe they're being sold to Hamas, bad actors who hate Americans, who want to kill Americans. That's an act of war in my book, Mark.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. 100%. I think any one of these things that we're seeing is reason to step away from this whole fiasco. I'll tell you, the big problem is, let's say we do a deal with Zelensky, we go over there, there's a non-zero chance we're going to get a false flag. We're going to get some barracks blown up, and now all of a sudden here we are committed to Russia. Because what Zelensky wants is to regain that territory. Yep. It's not in the best interest of America for that to happen, because it requires us, or basically all of the men in Germany, England, Canada combined, I guess. But it's a different world. They poked the bear. And now Donald Trump's in charge, and everybody should have seen this coming. And if Zelensky can't, maybe fire your consultants, dude.
Yeah. And you know what Donald Trump has done, because today he met with his cabinet and he wants to figure out how to cut any aid that we have that's set to go into effect to Ukraine, and any further aid that is scheduled to go in effect, he wants to cut. He's also reportedly this evening, this might be some breaking news, has halted the any weapon sales to Ukraine. So now that makes you wonder a little bit more if what Tucker Carlson is reporting about them selling our weapons to other countries is true. I don't know how Ukraine gets out of this. I've been saying since probably August that I think eventually we see Zelensky flee Ukraine with a duffel bag of money, never to be seen again where he goes, maybe Qatar, or maybe one of those places down in the Middle East where he'll be safe. But how do you think this ends for Zelensky?
I really don't know. He's a dictator, right? You don't round up people and throw them into vans. He had a quote that blew my mind. It was a while ago, maybe a couple days ago, in the paper, and he said, "Listen, I suspended my elections, but I'm not going to stay in power for decades." Oh, how magnanimous of you! So we're funding somebody that thinks that staying in power for decades is on the table. And maybe that's what they want, the forever war to fight against Russia. But I think it's done. Like, we're out. And he would have to come crawling back on his knees. And even if, Valerie Jarrett or Victoria Nuland or whoever is talking to him says, yeah, okay, you should do that. Is he capable of it? Trump's just going to jab him again and his head's going to pop and he's going to fly off the handle probably. I don't know if he's capable of it. We are his patron. That's it. A lot of people ponied up, but it wasn't possible without America. We shouldn't have done it. We should have negotiated this while Russia had its equipment sitting on the border for a month.
Yeah.
Remember, there was a month where we saw satellite pictures of the force getting larger and larger. Joe Biden refused to talk to Vladimir Putin.
Yep.
So at this point, it's like nobody's reclaiming lost territory. It's all going to happen at the table. We're not going to be on the hook for security guarantees, so you don't have any cards, right? Stop gambling with World War III. Trump called it like he saw it.
He took it very literal when Donald Trump said the cards aren't in your favor, and then he goes out there and he starts tweeting at everybody saying thank you for your contribution, thank you for your contribution. It's a losing proposition. If Vladimir Zelensky doesn't realize Donald Trump literally wiped out half of our political sphere, Mark. In 2016, he got 16 career politicians off a stage when everybody said nobody can do it. 2 weeks before the election, or a month before the election, the Access Hollywood tape comes out. Everyone says he's done. By the way, one of the only people to come to his defense I think he actually was the only person to come to his defense, was Lou Dobbs, who stayed behind him. Hannity, they all ran. The Access Hollywood tape, he's done. Lou Dobbs stayed behind him and had his back. They've written this guy off, Mark, at every single point. 2020, after he loses it, the party's got to move on. Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, they're the new face of the party. This is where we're going to be moving. By the way, we're going to be joined in just a few moments by Leo the Lion. He runs the Rhino Removal Project. We all hate rhinos, and we've got to get rid of them. But before we get to that, you've got Adam Kinzinger. He's got his name as some Ukrainian name on his Twitter page. Are these people, are they on the payroll, Mark, or are they just useless idiots, I guess?
It's a conglomerate of people who their best interest is in maintaining the kleptocratic status quo. Some of the people are on USAID payrolls. Maybe it's been cut. Maybe they want to get that money back. Then some of them are probably, complicit in crimes and they're trying to create a unified front. Other people are suck-ups. But what they're all willing to do is subjugate reality in order to perpetuate this farce. And the people have woken up. That's why Joe Biden would have lost big and why Kamala Harris lost. The farce of clown world. Literally for 4 years, the government pissed on us and said it was raining. And people are done. Now, listen, I'll tell you, right? I'll point to an example here. People have a very low opinion of Vladimir Putin, but they don't really care about this whole Russia thing that much. This is a group of people, only 30% trust the federal government. Who's the biggest enemy America currently faces? Iran, China, Russia. The big three. We didn't have room to put North Korea in there. Or the Democrat Party, Republican Party, or domestic extremists. You know who gets number one?
China? Iran?
Nope. Keep guessing.
China, Iran, Russia. Who was the other one?
The Republican Party, the Democrat Party.
Oh my goodness, the Democrat Party. It's got to be the Democrat Party.
So we've asked this a bunch of times, and China used to win, but now in the last 2 years, the Democrat Party wins. This one was the combined 10 battleground states in September, but we asked it and got an even higher number recently. But 24% of people said the Democrat Party, followed by 20% China, followed by 18% Republican Party, followed by 13% domestic extremists, followed by 12% Russia. So Russia's not even the top three. It's five people down the list. And what's really hilarious is looking at it by what cable TV news channel that people trust.
What is it?
Newsmax. Here's Newsmax, people. 56% Democrat Party, 26% China, 7% Iran, 3% Russia, 3%. So that's a really strong showing, Newsmax. If you're a Newsmax enjoyer, pat yourself on the back.
We've got John
are-
Bachman joining us in the second half of the show. You've got to bookmark that, Mark, and bring that up with John.
Oh, I'll keep this up because
who
we
hosts-
have an entire set of polls that we asked in these battleground states, and for every single one of them, we have the news demographic breakdown. It's pretty hilarious. Fox News only 11% said Russia, but even like MSNBC was only 13% because they're too busy saying Republicans. 43%. It's really wild.
I mean, what is the threat of this is something maybe you can answer for me because I don't get it. What is the threat of the Republican Party? What have they done, Mark, that's so bad? Like, what is the premise of these Marxists? What's their premise that Republicans are so bad for the country? Donald Trump's first 4 years in office, he did absolutely nothing that would point the country in the wrong direction. Now, some would say he started an insurrection and, all that good stuff. But other than that, for the previous 4 years, they couldn't name one bad thing that Donald Trump did for the country. If you asked one of these Marxists, which I often, get them coming up to me when I wear my Trump hat out, they'll say he's a racist, a xenophobe, a misogynist. And then you ask them what he is, why he's that. You'll say, why is he a racist? What makes him a racist? And then they'll say, well, no, he's a xenophobe. What makes him xenophobic? He's a fascist. They can't explain what their rationale is. What is their hatred for this man?
It's an emotional conditioning. They've been told that they need to band together. They need to protect our democracy. Look at it this way. That same question, who's America's biggest enemy? The number one group of people who say the Republican Party are people who identify as very liberal. So that makes sense. The next highest one is people who say the number one issue for this election was protecting our democracy.
Really?
Protecting our democracy is the number one issue for half of people who watch MSNBC. So it is literally, hey, I need to put a sign on my yard. I need to have the peace symbol flying right next to the Ukrainian flag. Damn the paradox, right? I need to have a coexist sticker on my car. But if I see your little kid with a MAGA hat, I am absolutely going to fly off the handle, and then I'm going to go home and stroke a bald spot in the top of my cat and worship Rachel Maddow. This is what we're up against. It really is crazy.
Oh boy, the coexist sticker. I was waiting for you to say the coexist sticker on the back of the Subaru. That's like the most common one I see.
Yeah, they're the people that hate Trump most. Definitely the coexist people.
I want you to do a poll for me, Mark. I want you to find out the number one most driven car by a liberal. I would bet it's some sort of Subaru. I don't know what it is. I'm not saying Subaru are bad drivers, but they're bad drivers. But I'm just so curious because you see them constantly on the highway, and 9 out of 10 of the coexist stickers, Mark, are either on a Toyota Yaris or a Prius or a Subaru, some sort of Subaru station wagon thing, one of those station wagons. But they constantly want to talk about threats to democracy, Mark. Now, the Republicans, there are Republicans and they're rhinos. Like I said, we're going to be joined by Leo the Lion in just a few moments here to take up what we're going to do to get rid of these rhinos and send them off into extinction. But the Democrats are the ones, Mark, who are constantly under these investigations, these federal investigations. You got the guy down in Texas, the congressman, him and his wife, Rob. You've got Mayor Eric Adams, who had to beg and plead and offer up migrants as a way to get out of his legal issues. We now find out Kathy Hochul, who was holding his feet to the fire, received union help for rigging bid of $9 billion for a home health aid program. So you look at Nancy Pelosi's stock portfolio. Now, she's up there with Dan Crenshaw and a rhino who's, like I said, we have them on both sides. But overwhelmingly, you have the Democrats who undermine democracy. You've got Jamal Bowman, who pulled a fire alarm in Congress last year to delay a vote. Okay. Anybody else does that, they're going to jail. Okay. It's a false alarm. How about a threat to democracy, Mark? When did Kamala Harris get voted in as the 2024 nominee by her peers? When did that happen? Did we miss that by any chance? So you want to talk about threats to democracy, yet Donald Trump has time and time again went through every single hoop the right way. He's done everything legitimately, but yet he's the man who's the threat to our democracy. He's the man who's going to destroy this country. He's the man who's a dictator. Make that make sense.
There is a counter-revolution going on right now, and it's not Republicans taking over and supplanting entrenched Democrats. It's not conservatives versus liberals. It's literally like reality versus a fake reality constructed by weak minds. That's literally what it is. And I think they're very capable of ignoring fact sets that are like the mask people, like the whole mask thing. And the fact that they did it ubiquitously and still do, many of them. I think it's like, show me on the doll where January 6th touched you. I think that's really where it came from. And then the mainstream media didn't care. They needed something to bang the drum on for all of Biden's presidency. And the first time around with Trump, it was J6, or not J6, Russian hoax. And so they needed something else. And this is what they used. And it was almost reflexively. I think, like, probably cynically, many of them probably didn't think it would take Trump out. And it turned out being actually pretty effective at getting Trump's campaign back on track, the indictments and the criminal court proceedings. So at this point, it's almost like instinct. They're just operating based on the only playbook they have, and it's failing for them. They're losing things now, time and time again. It's getting worse and worse. And they still have true believers, but I think there's less of them. Yeah. And now at some point, the party's just going to eat itself apart. I think we saw an article. It was in the Politico? Just came out yesterday, talking about how a group of centrist Democrats are trying to silence the crazies within their own party. That's great. Like, that's what you'd expect, but
we don't want
where
that,
this is going.
We don't want that to happen. We want them to. For years, Mark, Republicans had so much infighting in their party. And I actually want to take a break because I want to take this up with Leo on the other side of this break. But for years, you've had fighting in the Republican Party. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing on the world stage. It's embarrassing for our party that we just can't seem to get it together. And it's because of outlying rhinos who just cause total corruption and chaos. For the first time, Mark, in my lifetime, we're watching the Democrats at war with themselves. Do you know how enjoyable this is to watch? Because you've got these Marxist lunatics on one end, and then you've got these people who want to be centrists, but they can't because they're dragged down now by Nancy Pelosi. They're dragged down by the Kamala Harrises of the party, tampon Tim Walz, who wants to run for president in 2028. They're dragging these people down, and I think they're going down a path where it's just not really sustainable. We're taking a quick break here. We're coming right back with Mark Mitchell. We're also going to be joined by Leo the Lion on the other side of this break. He's got a new project he's going to come tell us about, the Rhino Removal Project. Got a nice ring to it. We're coming right back. Stay with us.
This past year has been one of the hardest in MyPillow's history. It's because of you that we're making it through. My employees and I want to thank you for your continued support by extending our wholesale prices on classic MyPillows. Get standard classic MyPillows only $14.98. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Only $14.98. But it gets even better. Upgrade to a queen size MyPillow for just $18.98. King size only $1 more. Get my body pillows $29.98 and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of these wholesale prices, including my standard size MyPillow, originally $49.98, now only $14.98. Queens $18.98, Kings only $1 more. Not only that, order $75 or more, ship absolutely free. From all of us here at MyPillow, thanks America!
Folks, we're back talking with the great Mark Mitchell. In just a moment, we're going to be joined by Leo the Lion. He's leading the Rhino Resistance Project. We're trying to get rid of these rhinos. For MyPillows, folks, go out and get yourself a MyPillow. $14.98. You can't get a damn Subway sandwich for $14.98. If you're not tech savvy and you want to call up, 800-969-3077. 800-969-3077. You can tell them John sent you, but they'll be waiting for you, folks. Free shipping on all orders. So go ahead and get your MyPillows. I want to bring in Mark. I want to bring in Leo the Lion now and get this conversation going with where we sit with the rhinos. Leo, it's great for you to join us today. Thanks so much.
Hey, John. Thanks for having me. It's good to see you, Mark.
Yeah, good to see you too.
So I want to talk about rhinos. Obviously, it's something you've been fighting against. Mark pulls on them. Tell us what your whole project is about, what you hope to accomplish, and how you're going to raise money to do this.
So, John, we're a grassroots political organization solely focused on removing rhinos. We want to be Trump's ultimate tool of accountability, a precision strike force aimed at rhinos who dare to obstruct the America First MAGA Maha movement. Now, how do we do that? Many different ways. So we're a national organization who's trying to put a name on the rhino. We want to educate voters because, believe it or not, a lot of people don't quite understand what a rhino is. And Democrats, Mark and I have talked about this many times back, even before the election started. Democrats, I believe, have killed themselves by going so progressive. But Republicans, because of the infighting, because of the establishment, the neocons, the rhinos have taken a central hold of the party. Right. Now, Trump is a force of nature. He's come in and completely obliterated that. So with his sacrifices and everything he's done, the Rhino Removal Project wants to function as his resource. And we want to go after strategic rhinos, and we'll do that through education, identifying strong primary challengers, creating a state-specific focus. So we're national, but we want to go into the states with what we call state chapter leads because we want state-specific political environment experts.
Interesting. Mark, you have any thoughts?
No, I think it's highly needed. I think what's interesting is that just in the last month, we now understand the calculus of one of the main reasons we have rhinos. Turns out you can't be in D.C. for more than a few years without getting onto the probably most likely FBI-led grift funnel and become a U.S. AIDS recipient or victim. And all of a sudden, you behave like Mitt Romney does, inexplicably voted to impeach Donald Trump and destroyed his favorability, making him the least favorable politician of anyone we polled. He did that. Why? It makes no sense. And so time and time again, you see, and again, it's because I think taxpayer money was weaponized to enable this entire oppression that we have. Democrats vote lockstep in block on dogmatic things that make absolutely no sense. And Republicans are always, breaking. And it's because I think a lot of them get paid. There's only one way to get rid of them all. Got to get them out.
So that brings up an interesting point. 2026 is right around the corner, guys. And you've got a lot of people who are on the rhino list who are up for re-election. Going down the list, a few that I can raffle off. Joni Ernst has gone back and forth during this whole process of getting Trump's cabinet appointments through. She's went back and forth, whatever sort of charade or act she was doing. I put her in the rhino column. Mitch McConnell retiring, gone. Thank the Lord. But we have better hope that he doesn't get to pick his successor. Bill Cassidy, another one, a constant thorn in the side down in Louisiana. Susan Collins in Maine. Enough with the free passes. I don't care how many of Donald Trump's Supreme Court justices she was the tie-breaking vote for. It shouldn't even come to that. She's not a Lord and Savior for that. She's a terrible person. She's a terrible senator, and she's got to go. The Republican Party has got to stop this. John Thune in the Senate has got to stop this. Enough's enough. Tom Tillis, another one. Mark Wayne Mullen, massive rhino, but all of a sudden, through this whole process of cabinet approval of these members, he's turned himself around to become, and this is constantly what these guys do. They pull the wool over the eyes of the voters like there's some, great Republican senators, and they're not. Tom Tillis, like I said, Lindsey Graham, another one, gotta go. John Cornyn down in Texas, I pray to God that Ken Paxton primaries him because he'll beat his rear end because he's such a total rhino. So how can people support the Rhino Removal Project? Leo, what can they do to help you guys get the word out and get you guys some funding?
So go to our website, rhinoremovalproject.org. Join our community. Become one of the over 8.5 million patriots that have functioned or have become a part of our mission. And funding because you know what we're up against. The establishment has a lot of money. They have a war chest. These people that you're talking about, we've created a tier 1 list, John. So Cornyn, Capito, Ernst, Cassidy. So we've got people in these states, and we need people to support us by joining us, join our community, come on to X, help us, because pressure campaigns, we've learned, actually work. And then if you can go into our website, contribute. help us, support us financially, because we're going up against some of the most, as Mark was talking about, with USAID and with all the money that they have all this taxpayer money that they funneled to themselves. So we want to go after that.
And what's your website? Where can they help support you? Where can they follow you on Twitter, Leo?
So go to the Rhino Removal Project.org to the website. There's a link that'll take you right to the community. On X, you can follow me at Leo the Lion 1964. But our company account is Rhino_removal. And if you can follow those things, you'll be a part of the community. We also have a large influencer chat with people like Mark, because we want these smart-minded, brilliant people to come and join us so they can help give us answers.
Yeah, I'd love to see scumbag establishment politicians lose their jobs.
That is our sole focus. And we have to stop them now, right? I mean, if we don't stop the rhinos, I'm not as worried of the Democrats, but we have to have the Republicans act as America first. They have to do it.
Yep. Leo, thanks so much for joining us today. Truly appreciate it. We're going to help you get the word out as much as we can here on the Great America Show. And Godspeed, brother.
Thank you, John. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you. So, Mark, how do we get rid of these folks? I mean, what can you and I do to help Leo get these people the hell out of here? Like, enough's enough.
Yeah, there needs to be changes at the leadership level, I think. It was great that they got Ronna McDaniel out. I think that was one of the big barriers. We'll see what Whatley does with it. I'm not so sure about the NRCC, but if something needs to change there, it probably needs to change really fast. And I'm not really sure. Listen, Trump, I don't think plans to lose 2026. I think he's going to have a broad spectrum. Actually, I don't know. This might be breaking news. It just came out. I put the link in the private chat. Let me bring it up. There's been some movement in a pretty famous case. It looks like the DOJ just filed a statement of interest in Tina Peters' case. Peters is a Gold Star mom and the former election clerk of Mesa County, Colorado, who got locked up for exposing the massive vulnerabilities in a certain unnamed company's voting machines. That's weird.
We've got that up.
Yeah.
You're joining us on video here. That is massive. Let's see.
So this might be Trump's plan, and of course that's Jenna Griswold there. A picture of Jenna Griswold.
Who's corrupt as hell, by the way.
Oh.
The totally corrupt Secretary of State. Unbelievable. Wow.
So that's big news. As far as I know, this might be the first sign that DOJ is actively looking at an election integrity related case. And so that might be part of the 2026 plan as well. I feel for the voters, though, because the voters know this problem. We've pulled on it so many different ways.
Yeah.
In terms of helping elect candidates for their party, which has been more effective in recent years, the DNC or the RNC. And people say DNC more than RNC by 40 to 20%. It's really bad. And Republicans, they say RNC is better, but only 43% of them. And so on all these other measures, like we asked who should be the RNC head, and Ronna McDaniel came in third behind Mike Lindell and Harmeet Dillon. And also 75% of Republicans say that the Republican Party is a party of Trump and the Make America Great Again movement. And we even just did some private polling in a red state for a Republican primary, and asking these people who's doing a better job, Republicans in DC, the Trump administration, or Republicans in your state. The Trump administration wins among Republicans, 51. The other two are 25 and 11. It's just over and over again. There's signs that people in the party like Trump better, and yet they have no choice but to vote for whatever Republican candidates on the ticket. The generic ballot's always Republican +3. And, I feel for them. They have no other option.
Problem is these guys, Mark, for the longest time, and I worked in politics before getting into media for a long time, running political campaigns. The problem is nobody ever wants to do anything, right? You want to go to DC for your $174,000 paycheck. You want to go to the Senate for your $200,000+ paycheck. You want to go along to get along. You want to have dinners with lobbyists. You want to, get sweet deals, get amusement park tickets for the kids, vacations down in Florida, Kentucky Derby tickets, all that good stuff that I've witnessed while working on Capitol Hill. None of them wanted to work. None of them want to work. It's the status quo. It's Go there, take your paycheck, and go home. Maybe cheat on your wife, because that's the overwhelming majority trend that we see with these people in DC. And it's sad. It's truly pathetic. We had a congressman from where I'm from in Staten Island who had a different family. Mark, guy gets pulled over for a DUI, tells the cop, "I've got a whole nother wife and I've got a whole nother family." Okay, interesting. And the man is now back in political power. He's the borough president of Staten Island. It's things like that, Mark, that these guys continue to get away with. Whereas guys like Madison Cawthorn get booted out of Congress for blowing the whistle on what we see. It's a double standard that these guys live, and they get away with it. And the reason they hate Donald Trump, an overwhelming majority of them, and they won't say it out loud because they're wimps. If I don't like somebody, Mark, I'm going to go out there. You're probably going to do the same thing. You're going to say, "I don't like you for this, this, and this." These guys seethe behind the scenes with their lobbyists, with their big funders, their big donors, and they tell them how much they hate Donald Trump and how they can't stand him. Come out and say it. Be a man. If you believe that position, come out, be a man, and stand up for it. And you deal with your voters, and you deal with the repercussions of it. And you see where see if the voters agree with you. And then you maybe reevaluate if you're the problem or if he's the problem.
I think many of them lack the capabilities of objectively evaluating themselves.
Yeah.
I think what we're looking at is hubris and narcissism in many cases. And it seems like everybody, look at Eric Swalwell in the clip that we saw and what was discussed about what Nick overheard. Again, I haven't seen that video come out, so maybe it's all just conjecture. But the attitude was he sits right on down with lobbyists and immediately doesn't even know these people, is like, spilling his guts about all the ridiculous stuff that he's involved in. And it's like, no, this is what we all get away with. This is just how it's supposed to be. We're entitled to this. And the culture's got to change, and leadership helps, but Trump's not going to be able to fix everything. And, it's really everywhere, but it's like, hey, a lot of people in this world, like, were born and said, "Hey, I'm going to work the farm. That's my life. That's what God has given me, or I'm going to have a great family and enjoy it." Second they win an election, man, I don't know. Yep. Second they get in there, something happens to them, and it's like the world owes me.
We've got that video. We're going to roll it here for the audience to see what you're talking about with Fang Eric Swalwell and his corruption that he just he can't seem to help himself with.
So, Congressman, you referred to Elon Musk as a fascist at some point and alluded to him being a national security threat. Do you see that more of a national security threat, you sleeping with a Chinese spy, than transparency in the federal government? What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on that? What's Fang think of that?
What are you doing?
I mean, what's fascistic about exposing government corruption? I mean, I know you're just at dinner now with a bunch of lobbyists. They're buying you a bunch of booze, and that's awfully nice. I know you were talking about, maybe finding somebody else because you only like to fuck people that are tens. I just heard that one too. So, what do you think about that? Do you want to comment on any of it?
Of course not.
Elon Musk is a national security threat, but you sleeping with a Chinese
trying not
spy
to fall
is
down.
not. Is that correct?
He's so wasted.
You don't want to comment on that at all? Looks like guilty as charged.
God. And I apologize to the audience for the vulgarity. I didn't know that was in there. But it's just sad, Mark. This is what we're dealing with. This is our top guys. And Eric Swalwell is a big tough guy. Not on camera, behind his computer, Mark. He's a big tough guy. Talks a big game, spits a big game. When push comes to shove, he doesn't want to talk. Why? Practice what you preach, right?
There's no shame. Hey, Fang should have been your resignation. All of his colleagues should have been appalled to be in the same room with him. Yep. Like, seriously, a Chinese spy? And the implication is probably he's complicit in espionage.
Yeah.
And he was on the Intel committee.
Yeah.
And it's at least.
But that's normal. This is what, Mark, this is what we've allowed. This is what we've considered normalcy. Our members of Congress who are on the national security committees, the people who make our laws, sleeping with Chinese spies. Yet Donald Trump is somehow, which was never confirmed, the whole golden shower tape was all a lie. The thing was completely made up. But Donald Trump's the national security threat. They've never proved anything he's done wrong. That's the crazy thing. They've never proved a damn thing that man has done illegally or that he has done wrong. Yet he's the threat.
And they convinced 35-40% of people to just believe it fundamentally like a religious dogma. That's what's crazy.
It's mind-blowing to me. I want to take a quick break here. We've got our next guest who's going to be joining us, my good friend, the great John Bachman. We're going to be taking up the State of the Union. Tariffs going into effect tomorrow. We're also expected to get a Doge report on the Department of Defense. What can we expect? What's going to be in there, Mark? We're coming right back.
I did not know that was coming.
Yeah, we got news to break here. Coming right back with John Bachman of Newsmax and the great Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen Reports.
Just like all of you, I had problems sleeping. I had tried every pillow out there and nothing worked. I'd flip-flop all night, use my arm for support, and fall asleep, or I'd wake up with a sore neck or maybe a headache. Well, quality sleep comes from keeping your neck straight at night. You have to fill in that space between your head and your bed. That's why I invented MyPillow. MyPillow's patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs, and it doesn't matter if you sleep on your back, stomach, side, or any combination of all three.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night, and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get Classic King MyPillows for only $19.98. Queen size just $18.98. Standard Classic MyPillows only $14.98. That's right, only $14.98. Plus all orders $75 or more ship absolutely free.
Folks, go get your MyPillows. Go buy 10 of them. Go buy 20 of them. 800-969-3077 if you don't want to go through the internet. You want to go the old school way. I want to bring in our next guest here, the great John Bachman, host of Newsmax show each and every day. John, is that an Atlanta Braves hat?
Yeah, it is. I put it on just special for you, Johnny.
Oh, my. Can we get rid of him? John, Mark Mitchell, great to have you with us.
Yeah, good to meet you.
Great to meet you, Mark.
Let's take a look at what we're expected tomorrow, the State of the Union. What can we expect from President Trump? Can we expect anything new? Any new developments? The tariffs go into effect tomorrow on China and Canada. I don't know if you guys heard his press conference today, but he was announcing the reciprocal ones going into effect on April 2nd. And he says, you know what? It's going to cost us a lot of money by not going April 1st, but it's the right thing to do. I don't want them to think it's a joke. Your thoughts, Johnny?
Well, I think we will get some surprises, and I hate to be too much of a, too technical, but it is not a State of the Union address. This is a joint session of Congress, as they do. It is more or less a State of the Union. We're going to see all the accoutrement of the State of the Union, but I do expect some surprises tomorrow. I did talk to some of my sources in the White House today, and they're being very tight-lipped about what those surprises may be, but I would assume there are going to be some special guests there, people that have been impacted, we'll get something like that we've seen before. And, I think back on previous State of the Union addresses, I think it was his last State of the Union when he did that special tribute to Rush Limbaugh. So we're going to have something special like that. The tariffs will be interesting to talk about. I think certainly we'll hear how the tariffs have been effective. One of our reporters, Sarah Williamson, was down south of the border, actually embedded with the federal police in Mexico, how they've responded to the tariff threat. And they've really stepped up their game there. And, we'll see if that continues, if these tariffs do take effect. But one of the things I do expect to hear a lot about tomorrow is the success we've seen on the border. And the fact that we're like a 25-year low for apprehensions on the border, which just goes to show you how effective the border policies have been and how little Joe Biden cared to enforce the border.
Mark, I want to get your take on what the American people say about tariffs. But in my opinion, he's either got to put them on or off because it's unstable. It destabilizes the markets. The markets react one way because they expect them to come. Then they don't come. He pushes them off, and the market goes the other way. You see the crypto markets finally rebounding a little bit after his big announcement yesterday. But he's got to make a choice. So now he says they're on. They've got to stay on until these countries decide to get their act together. Mark, what are the American people saying about tariffs?
This is one of those things we actually don't have any recent numbers for. To be honest with you, it was always just kind of like pie in the sky. It was like number 57 on his list of promises, to be honest with you. And then since he's been in office, there's just been so many crazy things to poll on. There is an increased right track the happiness of the country as measured by, do you think the country's on the right track, is the highest it's ever been as of last week, 48%, never seen higher in our history. And we had a huge spike increase in consumer confidence. So listen, I think Trump has a lot of political capital. I think this is one of those things where they just trust Trump. I think he built his 50% supporters, and it's going to take a lot to lose them. Yeah. But if he is going to lose supporters, what it's going to be is a black swan economic crisis. And I don't know if this is going to do it or not. I don't know if a major stock market crash will do it or not. I think it'll probably take a few months to see if something like that has an impact.
Did you guys see there was a big announcement today from Honda, and this is in direct response to the tariffs, that they're going to start building the Civics in Indiana. Yep. They had planned to build them in Mexico, but now they're going to build them in Indiana. So, you know, and I think they are anticipating at the White House some short-term, let's call them economic speed bumps, if you will, as a result of these tariffs. It's also interesting, and I don't know if you guys have had the same effect, is because Donald Trump isn't running for re-election the next time around, they're not as concerned with how this stuff is polling. What I think they're more concerned about is the long-term impact and if it's really going to work. You don't hear the concerns about the midterm elections in 2026. I know a lot of Republicans in Congress are way more concerned about that than they are at the White House right now. But I think what they're most concerned about is, you know, these tariffs actually putting them to work and making sure they work. And I think with this Honda announcement, that's a big deal for Donald Trump. We'll probably hear about that tomorrow too.
The truth of the matter is, and I want to get Mark's take on this, what you said, I don't think they're scared, John, about the 2026 elections. No. It's because they expect Donald Trump to pull them across the finish line every single time. None of these guys, John, if you look, I don't want to say none of them, but if you look, I bet the overwhelming majority wouldn't be brought across the finish line. Lauren Boebert in Colorado would have not won that election after changing her district without Donald Trump. And you go down the list. You look at some of these seats in California. Throughout, these guys are lazy, John. They want to, I don't know if you heard, but we were talking last segment. They want to go along to get along. They want their expensive dinners. They want their lobbyist dinners. They want all that good stuff, but they don't want to work. And Donald Trump, time and time again, has pulled these people across the finish line. There's one problem, John. There's only like 4 more years of this. After this, I don't think Donald Trump, he'll probably finally retire and enjoy the rest of his life, hopefully free of persecution. But these people got to wake up and smell the coffee.
Yeah, they got to take bold action. And that's, you know, one of the things we've seen from Donald Trump. I do think that there is some coalescing around J.D. Vance right now in the Republican Party, realizing that he is going to be the guy in 2028. And, you know, you hear some talk about PACs already starting to line up behind J.D. Vance. So that's, I think, encouraging for Republicans, too. But you're right, John. There is never going to be another guy who can cut through the noise and just kind of get everybody in line. When you think about, too, and, you know, Mark, I'd love to get your take on this one as well. Like, when you think about the coalition that Donald Trump has built, whoever fills those shoes after him has to maintain this coalition somehow. So you have the mandate, so you can get the 312 electoral college votes. And, you know, it's just hard to imagine how that's going to be possible without a guy like Donald Trump who's willing to take the risk and put his neck out there on so many issues and lead the party unlike anybody really has ever done.
Mark?
Yeah, I think we're in the midst of a major political realignment that's been going on for like 5 or 10 years, where 18 to 39-year-olds are just vastly more supportive of Trump. Believe it or not, they have a higher job approval rating than voters over 40. It's 60% right now. It's freaking incredible. Never seen anything like it. And if it's not a response bias, it's doomed for the Democrat Party. I think they've lost a lot of power even since the election. And I do think that there was, even this time out, some amount of election integrity. So I think going into 2026, Trump is not planning to lose that. And I think what we're at is this is an existential crisis for the kleptocracy, as I call it. I don't know if you agree, because you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube of all of the fraud and waste and just absolute degeneracy that all of our elected leaders essentially have just been perpetrating on the American people. We're talking about potentially theft of trillions of dollars. So I think public opinion is going to decide how far Trump can go, but he's got a lot of cards that he can play. Like, they can crack down on the small dollar donation Smurf network. They can, I know of at least 2 election integrity bills that are being written right now. And we just covered in the last segment too, the DOJ has now filed a notification of interest in the Tina Peters case, which I think is the first investigation we've heard about election integrity related stuff. So it's going to be wild. I have no idea what's going to happen, but they have to fix it, because if the current crop of Democrats get back in control, you're just going to see everything, I think.
We got some breaking news here. The head of the FBI field office in New York has officially resigned after the Department of Justice has accused his office of hiding thousands of Epstein documents. John, I was told by my sources that this whole screwing of the pooch had nothing to do with Kash Patel. It had everything to do with Pam Bondi. Mark and I were talking on the phone about this earlier today. It's mind-blowing to me that a career prosecutor, a career DOJ official, could have been fooled and believed that 200 documents was the total amount of documents in the Epstein files. I was told by John Solomon it's probably about 35,000 documents. She gets 200, goes on Jesse Waters, tells us they're being released. Here they are. And then comes out the next day completely empty-handed. Redacts files, John. That black book, I have the full unredacted version from 2023 with the names and numbers. She puts out a redacted. I mean, how do you think she survives this one? Because people are pissed.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are pissed. I think she's going to have to pull a rabbit out of her hat. I mean, having lived in Florida for a long time and seen Pam Bondi, the Attorney General in Florida, and seen how she operates, I mean, this is certainly out of character for her. There was a hiccup where she said something publicly about guns too, right before the whole Epstein debacle happened, that really freaked a lot of people out about red flag laws. I'm willing to give Pam Bondi a little grace. I've been waiting for this as much as anyone. But at some point, there was some staffer who was putting this stuff in the notebook, and they had to know that this was not going to be enough for people like us who are waiting to find out for these files to come out. So that is a big nugget, John, that the FBI, the Southern District of New York FBI chief guy there has resigned. So, I mean, I'm waiting like everybody else, not just for the Epstein files too, but I'm also curious about the JFK files and the MLK files and all that other stuff as well.
Mark, you did some polling on the JFK files and the MLK files. Is that correct? And Epstein?
We haven't recently. We did. I think we found that 41% of U.S. likely voters think it's at least somewhat likely that the CIA was involved, or so that number was pretty astounding. And we also found that only 27% of people thought that Epstein actually killed himself. And that was right around the time of his suicide. But this has, again, been kind of on the back burner for us. So much to pull on with all the USAID stuff, the government gangster stuff, the anger. And so, yeah, like, I think people are paying attention to what's being uncovered in a way that they haven't before. I think mainstream media lost a lot of its viewers and a lot of its power. And I think that Elon Musk and Doge and Joe Rogan and all the other independent creators have filled that vacuum. And so one of the major questions we saw as we asked, and I think I've covered this with you before, John, but 7 out of 10 voters are angry at the level of waste, fraud, and abuse in the government. So
I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier too about younger voters. When you talk to younger voters, they understand what's going on. They know that their Social Security is being leveraged, that their Medicare, that their due someday in the future is being leveraged right now. And they get really charged up about the Doge exercise. And that's why, Elon Musk is such an important figure for those young people. They see him as a guy who can do things, obviously, with SpaceX, with Neuralink, with Tesla, with the Boring Company. He can do things outside of government. And so when he's focused on that, and what you guys know this too, I mean, we've seen these waste books come out every single year, going back to Tom Cover, and James Lankford does it now. It never generates the enthusiasm that we're seeing, like what we've seen with Doge. It's just, it's all that stuff on steroids.
Yeah.
And if we can actually see results coming out of these cuts, like if they can start to roll things back, I mean, if Elon can deliver a tenth of what he's promised, at least that will get the ball rolling in the right direction. We can't continue to have $2 trillion deficits every single year, right, and expect that to work out for us in the long run.
And you missed the first segment. We were talking about Ukraine, so I want to pivot back to that for a little bit. Our good friend Vladimir Zelensky, little Vladimir. I don't know if you can see that on your screen there, but this is a man who's sat here and attempted to call the shots. John came to America telling us what we were going to spend, because he thought that this man was still president, Joseph Robinette Biden. There's a new sheriff in town, and it's not Joe Robinette Biden anymore. This is now the Donald Trump administration, and he's tired of the games. He's tired of the lies. And where the hell is the money going?
I mean, I thought Donald Trump was very reserved, honestly. We had the whole thing, they didn't actually carry it live, but they put the playback up. And, I was expecting Volodymyr Zelensky to be, contrite and thankful. And obviously he has to understand that Donald Trump is different than Joe Biden, but he acted like a petulant brat. And, specifically, I've not been able to get confirmation on this, and I want to know. I don't know anyone who speaks Ukrainian. I've asked several people if they could actually hear it. But did Volodymyr Zelensky actually call JD Vance a bitch in the Oval Office? I mean, that's there was that. But you could tell, even if he didn't say it out loud, the body language that Zelensky had in the Oval Office, rolling the eyes, just a bad scene. And then I'm sure you guys saw today that Zelensky said it's going to take a very long time to reach peace with Russia, and Donald Trump responded to that. The more Zelensky does this, the harder it is going to be for him to show up and apologize to Donald Trump. I don't know what that apology looks like, but you guys can only imagine what Zelensky's going to have to do now publicly, not privately, but publicly, to get Donald Trump to agree that maybe he's ready to talk about peace again.
I don't think he can do it at all. We talked about this, and I said this is the equivalent of parenting a toddler. If they step out of line, you put them in the corner and you don't get out until you acknowledge what you did wrong and apologize. And I don't know if his handlers won't let him, or I don't know if his pride's too here. If he apologizes, he's basically going to say, yeah, I was wrong, in a way that everybody in Ukraine who can't elect somebody else is going to pay attention to. So that's probably really dangerous for him. And then he also admits and acknowledges that his goals are different than ours. Our goal is to end this thing. His goal is to use our blood and wealth to recapture lost territory. And that equation is not going to square. And I don't know how he's going to do it. And so Trump is right, in my opinion, to just say, well, come back when you're ready.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I think Trump's absolutely right. And I think the polling bears that out too. And you look at the trend line for Zelensky, and his popularity with the American public, it is moving in the wrong direction for him. So he's on a very limited timeline where he can hopefully convince, from his perspective, that to the American public that this is still a war worth fighting. But he's not done that yet. And I thought one of the most telling things about it was how quickly Lindsey Graham came out and cast Zelensky off, saying he needs. Lindsey Graham has been the biggest simp for Zelensky that we've seen, and he was ready from.
Oh man,
you lose John there.
Yeah, he's right about Lindsey. I don't know what's going on there. There's something we don't know about.
Well, that was the thing. While we wait to get John back here, he might have lost connection. Oh, did we lose there?
Yeah, I got you
back up.
Sorry.
John's a family man. He's probably getting a call from one of his daughters that he's got to go pick them up from soccer. Every time I talk to John, he's doing something for the kids. So John's one of the good guys. But
I was coming home from lacrosse practice before when you called me, but you're inside eating dinner right now. I'm outside talking to you.
You're better off out here.
That's right. Having more fun with the boys.
It was telling to me. Mark and I were talking about this in the first segment. Tucker Carlson comes out and says that Zelensky is selling the weapons we're sending him to Hamas and other bad actors. And it really makes you wonder, because Lindsey Graham comes out, who's the biggest war hawk perhaps in the history of this country, second to or tied for first with John Bolton, and he's completely flipped this too. Now, I don't know if it's because he's up for re-election in 2026, but it's never stopped him before. Why do you think the sudden shift from Graham?
I think he can, I think the only thing that matters more to Lindsey Graham than being on camera is what Donald Trump thinks of Lindsey Graham. And so that's, I think, Lindsey Graham is pretty, wishy-washy on issues like that. So I think he felt like he had no choice. He's a very emotional person too, Lindsey Graham is. So we saw him come out very quickly and, respond emotionally. I would love to know if he's had a follow-up conversation with Zelensky, or Zelensky's office has tried to call Lindsey Graham and say, please, Lindsey, let me help me. But I don't think that's happening. Another thing too, I don't know if you guys talked about this or not, but you guys saw the new British ambassador to the United States going on television and basically telling Zelensky, like, dude, you got to go back there, like right now, tell Donald Trump that he's the best and you were wrong and make up for it. Because I think the leaders of Europe understand that they can't do this without us either. And so they're concerned now that Zelensky has possibly, you got Senator Mike Lee calling for us to get out of NATO now. And, that I think is a big deal. before the meeting happened with Zelensky, I don't think anyone was really seriously questioning our support of NATO, but now they are.
Yeah. The crazy thing to me, and Mark and I talk about this often, is that, John, at any given day, like I'm not talking years, I'm talking days, we can be out of NATO ourselves, which NATO falls apart. We fund this damn thing for absolutely no reason. When push comes to shove, who the hell knows would be there to have our back if we got into a war with Russia or if we got into a war with China or Iran. These guys run with their tails between their legs, and they're happier to support Ukraine and the corruption there because the money flows back around. Everyone seems to forget, John, what happened in Ukraine over the last 10 years. The level of corruption. Hunter Biden, a well-known household name here in America, was doing business in Ukraine. Donald Trump gets on the phone with Zelensky. All of a sudden, he's impeached over it. But the level of corruption there, that nobody talks about this. Nobody says, okay, well, 2016, he's got Burisma over there, and the prosecutor's corrupt as hell, or so-and-so's corrupt as hell. Nobody says, oh, well, maybe we should second guess sending these people $350 billion because we don't know where the hell it's going.
Yeah, Zelensky himself admitted that they don't know where half of the money is. And, I think that was obviously a massive faux pas on his part. But we're getting up to $350 billion now in both cash and equipment going to Ukraine. And I've heard these reports from Tucker. I haven't seen any visual confirmation that these weapons are in the hands of our enemies. Yeah. But we deserve better accounting on our money going over there. If the president of Ukraine is willing to admit that they don't know where half of the money is, who knows how much has really gone? Who knows how much has really been wasted? How many cars have been purchased with that? And so we're getting to this point now, and I think this is, kind of the crux of this whole entire conversation. It's why we saw that blow up. I think Zelensky knows in the back of his mind that he is on a very short timeline. And I think Putin knows that. Trump seems to know that. And, this is a very tenuous situation for Zelensky. And I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't make it to the end of the month.
Mark?
Wow, you heard it here first. I have no idea what's going to happen to that guy. I'm not a foreign policy specialist. I can tell you that
making it, I mean resign. I don't mean anything like he's not going to get hurt. But I just
it's probably all on the table. To be honest with you, there's probably a lot of people who don't want to keep fighting, and it appears that Zelensky wants to using our money. But at a certain point, we were talking about this. I asked Grok, and Grok estimated they've lost between 1 and 1.5 million fighting edge men out of Ukraine just to flight. Yeah. And there aren't that many to begin with. I think the estimate was 5 to 6 million. So at a certain point, they're going to be scraping the bottom of the barrel, as we already suspect they are. And think about the long-term impact on their demographics, their future, the economy. It's absolutely crazy. Just the sheer scale that this whole thing is to Ukraine. That $350 billion alone, the money we gave them, that's like 150+% of their GDP.
Yeah.
Like imagine us having to fight a foe that costs $50 trillion. Like it's insane. Like what are we doing? It should stop, and it should have stopped the first month.
Yeah, it's not just that our money is going to fight the war too. You guys know our money is like propping up businesses in Ukraine, and while American businesses here are dealing with record inflation. All that stuff is contributing to the lack of enthusiasm for this conflict by the American taxpayer. It's just, it's got to end at some point.
Mark and I were talking today earlier on the phone about our military budget and how the thing is through the roof. It's skyrocketed. And to think we really haven't been in a war, a legitimate war, since the mid-90s with the Gulf War. I mean, we were in Iraq and Afghanistan, 2 wars that are totally unnecessary that we should have never been in. But we all know that. That's neither here nor there. We have a war, John. You mentioned the southern border. We have a war at our southern border that needs to be fought. Pete Hegseth announcing today that he's ordered a Stryker Brigade aviation battalion to the southern border. This is now seems the first time, probably in the last 10 years, where we may see some action on the southern border. I don't know if you remember, but Mark Esper came out in his book and said Donald Trump wanted to launch rockets into the drug cartel. And Donald Trump, we were talking about it. He goes, people thought it was brilliant, and it absolutely is. It's a war that needs to be fought. These people are terrorists, John.
They are 100% terrorists. And, their business model is not all that different than the RNGC or the Taliban nowadays. I mean, they sell drugs. They take that money. They arm themselves. They try to gain political power from it. I saw a video, and it was a video of an A-10 Warthog flying over the desert, and they said this could be the southern border of the United States. And you might imagine the mental effect that would have over not just the Mexican government, but also the drug cartels or any of these mules moving stuff across the desert. If like an A-10 were just a stray, doesn't have to shoot them, but just, give them a little hello, little, shot across the bow. Just that type of attention will, I think, definitely change the game for these cartels, make them double think what they're doing.
John, these guys, going back to Tucker, these guys have military arsenals and equipment, John, that are seen in first world countries. I mean, like comparable to what we have here. Someone told me once that they have air defense missiles that they can defend against missiles. How the hell does Mexico get technology like that? And it makes you wonder, who are they getting it from? Is it China? Is it Americans?
Maybe Americans. Maybe it's, I don't know. Again, I haven't seen this stuff myself. You hear the reports of this. You haven't seen it in action. We did see, I can't remember, it was a couple years ago. We saw some pretty heavy fighting between the cartels, and you got a chance to see they were like, I'm not saying they are MRAPs, but they look like MRAP vehicles. Yeah. Heavy armored personnel carriers that they have. And, but there's nothing that they have that the U.S. military can't take care of. And if they just devoted the attention to it, it would be a game changer.
Mark, you're a military man. Say America does go in and invade Mexico. And by invade Mexico, I mean invade the cartels. Who's going to stop us?
Well, I think we wouldn't do it without the permission of the Mexican president. Wasn't there some? This came in one ear and out the other, but I thought we had some agreement where we were going to send special forces down there. It might have been just in training roles, but absolutely has to happen. I mean, this needs to be. This is not the fake drug war of the 80s. This needs to be like a real broad spectrum attack, and that, in my opinion, means an attack on their funding, which I don't think we know hide nor hair of the full amount of which we're probably helping them. I mean, who knows where those additional Social Security payments are going? Who knows what NGO money is being? I mean, the NGOs are enabling the human trafficking at the border. Why aren't they going one more step? I don't know. Literally everybody in the country, in the world, seems to be getting USAID or some kind of money through NGOs from the taxpayers. Why not the drug cartels?
John?
It's highly plausible that that's actually happening, that some of these NGOs are just funnels of money to go to the cartels. Not that they particularly need all that much money. It's a $2 trillion industry, the fentanyl business alone, global industry. And, something has to be done to stop the amount of death and destruction that drug is causing in this country. And we've seen the border basically shut down. So we should also, next step, see some of these fentanyl deaths start to drop. And so that's what I'm looking for. And if that doesn't happen, then I think that's a sign that they're going to step in. You've heard Donald Trump talk about this so much, that they're really going to step in with the military power to stop the flow of fentanyl.
But why is China getting away with it? I mean, they're the ones who are supplying it. How do they, first of all, they unleashed COVID on the world. In my opinion, it was on purpose. Or the opinion of a lot of very smart people, it was on purpose. It was man-made out of one of their labs on purpose.
68%, by the way.
There you go, 68%. That's an overwhelming majority to me. So they unleash this on the world, John. They kill over 1 million Americans, millions of people worldwide get away with it, right? Now they unleash fentanyl, which they've been doing for years on our southern border. Takes the lives of over 100,000, just that we know about on paper, right? 100,000. John, you can't walk down the street here in New York when you come visit. I'm sure you see it. The streets of Philadelphia, of Chicago, without seeing people overdosing on fentanyl. Why are we're putting our paramedics and our people in harm's way, saving these people's lives, but China continues to get a free pass. Why?
Because there's such a huge economic power. Everybody's been so scared to upset China. It's a great question why we allow China to do this. They're so deeply embedded in our country. We know about things like the consulate. Remember the consulate in Houston, where they were burning all the documents? There is an element of the Chinese Communist Party in this country that we can't seem to get rid of somehow, and it's a big concern. And this is just part of it. I think it's not it didn't appear overnight. It's not going to disappear overnight. It's going to be a very detailed and prolonged effort to unravel this network that is obviously in our country. It's in Mexico, and it stretches all the way back to China.
Mark?
Yeah, I might have some insight on that. And I'll come at this from the immigration angle. I know some people that care near and dear, like this is a big issue for them. And I was asking them, well, like, why don't we have E-Verify? Like, why isn't it federally mandated? And he said, well, basically it comes down to, there's a lot going on in DC right now, but the big businesses still have a lot of interests. And the big companies want their slave labor, and everybody's afraid to pass that. And you're not going to be able to get any kind of unification in Congress on it. I think it's the same kind of thing with China. Just think about how many SKUs in a Walmart come from China. How much of like Amazon's product offering is all Chinese products. And like those are, multiple hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars in revenue, those companies right there. So I think that's one of the real reasons too.
Yeah, we have a very big issue here. And it kind of scares me a little bit that Donald Trump is not moving on it as fast as I would have liked him. I mean, I like that he's moved fast on the border, but without Tom Homan, that doesn't happen. I want to see what happens with China. Enough's enough, man. We've got to get these companies out of there. Him and Elon Musk are like this. Elon Musk is in bed with China. There's no other way to put it. Without China, Elon Musk can't make his cars. It's just the truth of the matter. So I would like Elon Musk maybe to help Donald Trump to help him divest out of China. Apple's got to get the hell out of China. We've got to get these companies out of there. Our pharmaceutical companies. There's no reason we should, John and Mark, that we should be importing 90% of our pharmaceuticals. Go look at the back of your pharmaceutical bottles. Made in India, made here, made there. Ingredients from China. If they want to shut down the country, we saw what they did with masks. You couldn't get a damn mask because they're made in China. Our pharmaceuticals, our laptops, our computers, everything comes from China. And we need to find a way to divest from these people because it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. The trade wars are going to start. As soon as tariffs go on, the trade wars are going to start. The Chinese are going to get very upset. And it's going to be like COVID 2.0 with supply chain issues. And we can't afford that. John?
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. There's no reason why we can't manufacture more of our pharmaceuticals here in this country or in a country that's friendlier to what we're trying to do. I think you will start to see that with the modern manufacturing model coming online. When more automation, we'll be able to do this stuff cheaper, and the big businesses will not have the high overhead of manpower here in this country. The reason why they've gone overseas, but it's not just, the pharmaceuticals that are manufactured there. It's a lot of stuff that's manufactured there. I mean, we have these DJI drones that are being used by the U.S. military that are manufactured in China. And it's just all that type of stuff. I mean, you guys remember Huawei and ZTE, how long it took Congress to make it illegal to use their products in the United States. It's just, we've become so used to China being in everything that we have, everything that's made, that we buy. And we got to change the mentality here in this country to realize that every time you buy something from China, you are in fact aiding the enemy.
But real quick, Mark, before we get your response on this, I recently bought a computer from Apple, and they're so brazen about it. They don't even ship the thing, John, to America. They ship it right to your door from China. Like, you would think they'd ship it to like their headquarters in Cupertino or wherever they got one of their headquarters. No, it ships right from DHL, right from the factory in China. I mean, they're brazen about it. They don't care. It's in your face. Screw you. What are you going to do about it? Mark?
Yeah, I'll tell you, the people get it. We polled on China, whether it was an ally or an enemy. I forget the numbers exactly, but before the Trump term, the first term, the numbers were pretty like nondescript. Very few people thought it was an ally, but you had a number in the, I think, like low teens who said it was an enemy. All of a sudden, Trump gets into office, and by 2017 or 18, it was like 50%. And so we asked that question time and time again, and you get like, 15% say an ally, 50% say it's an enemy, and everybody else says somewhere in the middle. And we also talked about how if you ask voters who America's biggest enemy, China comes in number 2 behind Democrats. So the people get it, but the problem is that none of the politicians do. And, some people like their junk from China, but I think other people want an option, and we certainly want our manufacturing base back. And it's like every bit of foreign policy, every bit of like foreign trade has been, I think, from China, this 5th generation 5G warfare. It's like they've enabled the offshoring of literally everything because it's better for them. And we haven't strategically identified other partners, helped develop manufacturing bases in other countries more favorable to us. Like, geez, think about, like, we could be doing this in Russia. They're a semi-democratic country with a constitution not much unlike our own. They're westernized, and it's like, no, we're trying to get in World War III with them. And then a country that's trying to destroy us has vocally said that that's one of its goals. Like, no, we're going to literally just manufacture all our stuff there.
John, before we let you go, because we know your wife is looking through the blinds right now, giving you the evil eye.
Oh, no, you got it.
You get the last word here, John, before we let you go. Where can people watch you each and every day on Newsmax?
Yeah, I think the easiest thing to do is check us out on YouTube, Newsmax N2, the streaming network. Rapidly growing audience, so thanks to everybody who's checking it out. You don't have to pay for anything, so it's totally free. Do a great job there. Also have a new book coming out in May called Turning Point, How Reagan Liberated Grenada and Ended the Cold War. The Operation Urgent Fury has been a footnote in a lot of stories, but I really focus on that, the relationship with Reagan and Thatcher, and that's coming out in May, so that's really exciting. Hopefully everyone can check that out. That is available for pre-order now on Amazon, so check that out as well.
Well, before we promote that, I want to get a deal where we get at least 10% of the proceeds. John?
Yeah, I need to get you a promo code for that, for selling the book.
Hey, while you're at it, go ahead, mypillow.com/John, 800-969-3077. John Bachman, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks,
Come
guys.
back soon.
Great to talk to you, Mark. Thank you, John.
Yeah, good talking to you.
Bye.
Good guy, John Bachman, a good friend of mine. Does a great job over at Newsmax, too. You can catch him each and every day there on Newsmax, too. Mark, you've got a show coming up tonight over on YouTube, Rumble, and wherever you guys get your podcast. You're working overtime. You're a hardworking man, too.
Yeah, I'm doing the grind.
Family man. Every time I talk to you on the phone, you've got the kids somewhere, you're grocery shopping, you're doing something for the family. Yet somehow you find the time to work and make a living and join us here on this great show. What do you got coming up on tonight's show?
I don't know about making a living. Honest pollsters tend not to do that. Yeah, we're streaming live at 9 p.m. Eastern, and we're going to go into the context of all of the Ukraine-Russia polling because there's a lot, and it's been kind of all over the place, and it's in preparation of what I think is going to be a major shift in public opinion after that crap we saw last Friday. I can tell you, I don't think it's blowing back on Trump yet because, again, his approval rating was 50 today, and there was very little change in the overnight numbers. But yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of mad Americans. So check back in early next week for those results. So that'll be at Rasmussen_poll or at my own Twitter account, Honest Pollster.
And you can catch them on YouTube tonight, 9 p.m. sharp. So as we wrap up here, Mark's going to have dinner, put the kids to bed, read them Green Eggs and Ham, maybe, right?
Yeah. So Dr. Seuss Day was yesterday. Yeah, we got a puppy birthday party. We got all kinds of stuff lined up tonight.
Puppy birthday party?
Yeah, Freya's turning 2.
Oh my god, that's the Jack Russell, huh?
Yeah, our little Jack Russell.
Is she happen to be running around there for the audience to?
I could share a photo if I could find one.
Freya. He's got these little rat dogs. Oh, she came. Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a cute dog.
Yeah, it looks like a little. Oh, we got a kid that wants to come in too.
Come on in.
You're live on TV.
Hi, beautiful. Oh.
All right, take the dog.
Oh,
I'll be
man.
up in
What a beautiful family. I hope she liked that Trump merch we got her over at CPAC. It wasn't easy to get. Mark, by the way, we were at CPAC, and Mark had to do 10 pull-ups to get one of these Make America Healthy Again hats for his daughter. And Mark was able to do 10 pull-ups and get his daughter a hat.
They were very sleazy pull-ups. I've out of training. John double counted a few.
Listen, Mark, you know what? When it's for the kids, you got to do what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
Mark, you get the last word here.
Yeah, wild times. I think the fourth turning is happening. I think one of the signs is that the 60% approval rating among 18 to 39-year-olds for Donald Trump. The Democrats, that is the worst news that they've gotten, I think, in years. They're not cool anymore. And now we're going to pick apart. We got the 1-2 punch of Donald Trump and Elon Musk. We got a leader strong enough to allow this to happen to the government, and somebody tough enough to cut through all the BS. And I think the young people are eating up. So wild times. Hope to see everybody at the show tonight. We'll go a little late, but appreciate you being there if you can.
Yeah, 9 p.m. sharp, folks. And Mark in the comments, Kelly Song, this is a great show. Fall Girl says your daughter's adorable. 10 pull-ups. Wow. I didn't do 1 pull-up. I had to force Mark to do it because I didn't want to embarrass myself. But Mark Mitchell, he was a Navy man, so he has the edge on me. It's all right. I'll get him one day. Mark, 9 p.m., folks. You could join Mark tonight on his show, Rasmussen Reports. YouTube is probably the best place to watch him. But you can catch him on Rumble or Twitter, wherever you guys get your shows. Mark Mitchell, come back soon.
Will do. Thanks a lot, John. Great to be here.
Thank you, Mark Mitchell. We'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody, for being with us today here on the Great America Show. Folks, please be sure to join us back here tomorrow for the Great America Show, where our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues. We're not giving up the fight just yet, folks. We're in it for the long haul, and we hope you guys will join us and continue to keep joining us each and every night here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into us live. As you see, we had a great show for you, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you back here tomorrow, same time, same place. Until then, may God bless you. May God bless America, and may God bless the great Lou Dobbs. We'll see you tomorrow, folks.